And welcome back to the hot lap on the tails of McLaren being denied, rejected their appeal based on, well, they need to show that there is a new evidence, which is really, I find that really strange on all fronts because Red Bull have done that before. I think it's Silverstone 2021. And since then, this rule that you have to find new evidence. No, what if it just was the wrong decision? And that amounts to all teams and everything. All teams should have the chance to appeal. And if it's there's no new evidence, you get punished. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. But we'll get into the FIA apparently revising the racing guidelines. Does that mean they're admitting to get it wrong? Something wrong? Oh, well, that's at least an admission of something needs to change. So here we go. Here's the main story, as you can see on motorsport.com. Now, the governing body is due to alter racing guidelines. Now, remember, they are guidelines, not regulations that the stewards look at. So the guidelines wording after the Verstappen and Norris incident, is this about time? Yeah, I think it is. For F1, for the fans, for everyone. So the FIA is to revise the wording of this controversial racing guidelines after what was a heated meeting in the drivers' briefing in Mexico in the wake of Max Verstappen's tactics against Lando Norris at Austin. Now, the governing body is understood to have accepted that changes to the guidelines were required to close a loophole Verstappen had been exploiting regarding strong defending when under attack from another car. Strong defending, I think, is the loosest term of what Verstappen was doing, but fair enough, with other instances of questionable tactics also being targeted. So if that is not the FIA admitting that, well, what happened at the United States Grand Prix was wrong, something needs to give. So Motorsport.com understands it will represent its suggested revisions back to the drivers for approval at another meeting. They're looking at Qatar next month, and because they are guidelines, they can be used by the stewards immediately. They're not regulations, remember. They're guidelines, which means if the stewards disagree with what happened in Austin, they could have ruled differently. But okay, they didn't. They stuck to the guidelines, and by the guidelines, by these guidelines, Verstappen, yeah, okay. When you look at it, what they had on paper, Verstappen didn't get a penalty. Norris did. So, Sauber driver Valtteri Bottas said on Thursday in Mexico, some drivers are pushing the limits of the regulations more and almost like kind of taking the bleep out of it. Yeah, the usual post-FP2 drivers meeting in Mexico event ran for an unusually long time, as Motorsport.com understands the FIA briefing and explanation of Norris's penalty for overtaking Verstappen off the track late in the Austin Grand Prix was followed by a GPDA meeting, and the stewards of the Mexico meeting attended along with the team sporting managers as usual, along with a sporting representative of Formula One management. Now, during the meeting, drivers outlined their positions and what Verstappen had been doing, with some siding strongly with Norris's point of view expressed post-race in Austin and again on the Mexico media day, that he was no longer the attacking car Verstappen was. Norris had passed. That was the basis of McLaren's appeal. Arguably, okay, maybe that's not new evidence. McLaren was saying the stewards are looking at it from a different point of view. Not new evidence, no. But should the steward have taken that into account? Yes. Others felt Verstappen's tactics were hard but fair within the rules that are currently written. So, however, although getting complete driver unanimity, let's be fair, very, very rare, Motorsport.com understands there is enough support at this stage for the guidelines changes to be accepted before the end of the current campaign. So there was enough drivers thinking, potentially, that what happened was wrong. Verstappen may be in the wrong. And, yeah, I mean, it even says on Planet F1, FIA to revise F1 racing guidelines following the Verstappen US Grand Prix report. Norris and Verstappen here involved in lively drivers' meeting over the US Grand Prix clash. So, direct, yes, disrespectful exchanges allegedly took place between... direct yet respectful, not disrespectful. Please accept my apologies. Direct, yes, yet respectful exchanges took place between Max and Lando. The FIA rules on wheel-to-wheel combat came under the microscope, as we know, in the US, and as we know, Norris was given a 5-second penalty. Now, the governing body to the FIA are set to present drivers with updated wording, but here we go. It was a lively drivers' meeting in Mexico overnight, and there were direct exchanges between Lando and Max about defending and overtaking, said Slater from Sky. I've been told they were calm and respectful. The rules of engagement and how to make them better dominated discussions, he said. The majority view on the drivers was standards have to be improved, and what is already an ongoing evaluation needs to be stepped up. Now, the meeting kicked off with the drivers asking how the FIA stewards make decisions in the cases like the Verstappen and Norris clash. They wanted a better understanding of the process. Now, interestingly, while delivering the explanation, the FIA admitted it would draft some updated wordings to the racing guidelines and send that back for the for the driver's review. But herein lies the issue. Then, does this mean, as I said at the beginning, does this mean that that the FIA are admitting that they were wrong in relation to the Max Verstappen ruling? I mean, that therein lies the issue. I think it kind of does. I think it kind of means that, yeah, maybe they weren't wrong, but they're admitting that something needs to change. As we keep saying, Max Verstappen took advantage. I mean, in the braking zone, Max Verstappen very much was, at that point, Norris had kind of passed him, but fair enough, Norris was on the outside. They were saying Max Verstappen was the overtaking driver. What they're doing is they're seeing it as one big thing, which I completely understand. It's not 2 overtakes, it's one big incident. Like Martin Brundle said on Sky. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I completely agree. But you can't, once again, the issue being that Max Verstappen outbraked himself to make sure he'd hit the apex, or at least outbraked himself. He hit the apex before Lando Norris because he outbraked himself. He didn't even make the corner. Both went off track. Now, here's the issue. Both went off track. If Lando Norris went off track, Max Verstappen stayed on track, maybe, and then Norris did the overtake. But as you looked at the George Russell penalty, he did push the Stake F1 guy off the track, Bottas, I believe it was, and he got a penalty for it. But, Bottas obviously stayed but went behind. Had that happened to Norris, would Verstappen have got a penalty? Because both of them went on track. Norris then goes behind him. Maybe. I guess we don't know, though. We're just, playing in hindsight, conjecturing, etc. Also, though, what I think is quite interesting, let's say, is let's have a look at all the rule changes since Lewis Hamilton came in. There's an interesting Reddit post, and the Reddit post is every Hamilton rule change, which I want to go with. This is kind of a bit of fun, but they've got here. Number 1, gaining advantage off track clarification. That was in the 2008 Grand Prix. Hamilton did cut the chicane while battling Raikkonen. He let him past. But then he overtook him straight away again. And then he got a penalty, which I think many thought was unfair because Raikkonen ended up crashing out. But the FIA clarified that if a driver gains advantage by leaving the track, they must not only give the position back, but ensure they do not retain any lasting advantage, which, to be fair, Lewis Hamilton did. Emphasis on honesty with officials. This is where in 2009, the Australian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton told porcupines to the officials. Hamilton and his McLaren team were found to have provided misleading information to the stewards regarding an incident under the safety car involving Jarno Trulli. Initially, Hamilton told the stewards he did not deliberately let Trulli pass, leading to Trulli's penalty. But he did. Now, the FIA enforced a requirement for absolute honesty, as if you're right, Hamilton. McLaren apparently told Hamilton to say that rumoured to be, and Hamilton was really, really embarrassed. Yeah, naughty Hamilton. Ban on excessive weaving to defend position. They say the 2010 Malaysian Grand Prix. This guy said it was Hamilton. Interestingly, it wasn't. It was in 1998. This is the one where I have an issue with. 1998, the Canadian Grand Prix. Damon Hill versus Michael Schumacher down the back straight toward the chicane. Basically, Damon Hill weaved more than once. Twice, I think, maybe even 3, to try and block Michael Schumacher. Yeah, I know, they're not friends. They weren't exactly at that point or whatever going to exchange Christmas cards, but they had the one move, kind of can't weave. But Malaysian Grand Prix, Hamilton weaved multiple times on the straight to break the toe from Petrov, who was attempting to overtake. It was deemed dangerous and unsportsmanlike. I don't think they went that far, but the FIA expanded the rules on defensive drivers, stating that drivers are allowed to only have one defensive move. Yeah, I don't quite agree with that. Restrictions on helmet designs, who cares? Reinforcement on pit entry and pit exit regulations. Hamilton aborted the pit entry by cutting across the grass to rejoin the track. The FIA enforced existing rule. It was already an existing rule, so okay, yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Fairly obvious at the time, but naughty Hamilton again. Podium attire regulations, political messaging. The Tuscan Grand Prix. Hamilton wore a t-shirt on the podium. They read the rest of the cops that obviously, yeah, okay. Yeah, certain sport I get. You've got to be careful when sport and politics mix. Not normally. I can understand why it sometimes does. The jewellery ban enforcement was ridiculous, but fair enough. The 22 Miami Grand Prix. Hamilton wore jewellery, including piercings and necklaces. The enforcement being, no, you shouldn't be doing that. External assistance rule change. 2007 European Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton went off during the race at turn 1, as did a lot of other people, because it was raining, and then he was kind of pushed back on the track. So not as many as I actually thought in relation to that. But in fairness, Lewis Hamilton, now we've got to do this guy here, Max Verstappen. So the rule changed since Verstappen entered Formula 1, mostly because of Max Verstappen. Let's get into it. Minimum age requirement for the F1 Super Licence. Max Verstappen was signed by Toro Rosso for the 2015 season at just 16-year-old. The rule change has changed back, incidentally, but the FIA introduced new Super Licence requirements effective from the 2016 season. Drivers must be at least 18 years old. Okay. 2016 Japanese Grand Prix. The Verstappen rule, moving under braking. For me, that is, maybe you'll accuse me of being biased, that is worse than the weaving that Hamilton supposedly was. So Verstappen aggressively defended against Lewis Hamilton by moving under braking into the chicane, forcing Hamilton to take evasive action. The FIA prohibited drivers from changing direction under braking in a way that would cause an avoidable collision. Absolutely justified. Expansion of the Verstappen wall. This was at the 2016 Belgian Grand Prix. Verstappen made an aggressive defensive move against Kimi Räikkönen. I think we've shared that on a video here on the show, including moving under braking and weaving. Now, the rule change. The FIA expanded the rule to penalise any dangerous defensive manoeuvres. Drivers are not allowed to make more than one change of direction to defend a position. Any movement that impedes another driver in a dangerous manner is prohibited. Completely agree. Use of alternate lines and track limits. Track limits, Max. 2017 United States Grand Prix. Yeah, incident. Quite a famous one. Verstappen overtook Kimi Räikkönen for third place on the final lap by going off track, cutting inside the track limits in turn 17. The rule clarification was the FIA provided clarifying definitions of track limits. The track is defined by the white lines. As we know, overtaking or gaining a lasting advantage by leaving the track is prohibited. That's what, interestingly, Lando Norris did do. The difference between that at the United States Grand Prix, where Max blatantly went off track and Mario Karted his way past Kimi Räikkönen, was that Lando Norris was pushed off track by Max Verstappen, which muddied the waters a bit. Number 5, driver conduct and physical altercations. Again, fairly serious. 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. After a collision with Esteban Ocon, Verstappen confronted and physically pushed Ocon multiple times. People have been arrested for less, believe it or not. Rule change. The FIA strengthened regulations against unsportsmanlike conduct off track. Drivers must conduct themselves professionally and with respect. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people like Max. I know he pushes those rules, but this one, yeah, absolutely stone bunker naughty boy Max. Physical altercations can result in penalties such as community service, fines or suspension. Next one, formation lap overtaking clarification. This was at the 2021 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Verstappen overtook Lewis at the start of the formation lap. I don't quite agree with this one being in there, simply because in 1994 Michael Schumacher overtook Damon Hill on the formation lap and got a penalty. So I think this one's a bit unfair, but the FIA clarified rules regarding the formation lap conduct. Drivers must maintain grid possessions during the formation lap unless a car is delayed leaving the grid. Overtaking only permitted if a car is delayed. Yeah, I don't quite agree with that one there. So list all that one out. Clarification of forcing a driver off the track. This is very now, isn't it? The 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix. The incident being Verstappen defended his position and, let's be fair, pushed Lewis so wide he pretty much ended up in the sea. Almost at turn 4. The rule clarification was the FIA issued clearer guidelines on overtaking and defending, but they didn't give Max penalty. Okay. If an overtaking car is significantly alongside, the defending driver must leave at least one car's width of space. What's interesting about this? Drivers must not deliberately force another car off the track. Okay, I mean, you could really just put that for Max Verstappen, Lando Norris at the US Grand Prix. If an overtaking car significant alongside, he was. The defending car must leave at least one driver's car width of space. He didn't. Drivers must not deliberately force another driver off the track. He did. There we go. But anyway, detailed criteria were provided for the stewards to assess incident consistently. They haven't. 8. Technical regulations on rear wings and park firming. Yeah, this was silly though, but still. After qualifying, Verstappen touched and inspected Hamilton's rear wing and park firming. The rule clarification being the FIA reinforced the rules regarding park firming conditions. Drivers and team personnel are prohibited from touching or examining rival cars. Verstappen didn't get a penalty. Mercedes could have argued that's the reason why the DRS was so wide. It would have been really, really silly. Could you have proven it either way? Maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, yeah. Double yellow flag compliance. That was at the 2021 Qatar Grand Prix incident. Verstappen failed to sufficiently slow for the double waved yellow flags during qualifying. The FIA reinforced Max Verstappen, to be fair, did get a penalty for this. The FIA enforced the importance of yellow flag compliance. Stricter penalties were introduced for Verstappen's failing to respect yellow flags. Brake testing and sudden deceleration. The 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Verstappen braked suddenly in front of Hamilton while attempting to let him pass, leading to a collision. Both drivers, I think, were silly here. Hamilton was like, what are you doing? But I don't know why he stayed right behind Max. Maybe, I think he did think, oh, he's going to hit me if I go either side anyway, because it's Max Verstappen. But this was just all very silly. Way more naughty for Max than Lewis, though. But the FIA reinforced rules against dangerous driving behaviours. Sudden deceleration or brake testing that endangers other drivers is strictly prohibited. Procedures for safety yielding positions were clarified, including proper communication protocols. Number 11, restrictions on post-race celebrations and dangerous driving over the finish line. The 2021 Styrian Grand Prix. So Verstappen slowed down and before burnouts or drifted over the finish line to celebrate his victory. Yeah, this one, I think as long as you do it sensibly, really, really silly. No. Safety car, poor Max. I mean, don't agree with that one. Max should not, no. Safety car restart procedure at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Verstappen often drew alongside. It was Hamilton at the time ahead. During the car restarts, the last lap dash to the title that many people felt, including myself, shouldn't have happened. During safety car restarts, notably during the controversial 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where he pulled alongside Hamilton before the restart. The rule change, the FIA updated the safety car restart procedures. Drivers must remain in a single line without overlapping until the race resumes. Overtaking or drawing alongside another car before crossing the start line after the safety car has pulled into the pits is also prohibited. Drivers cannot gain an advantage by positioning themselves alongside the car on a restart. That was already the case, but that was re-clarified because yes, Verstappen was a tad naughty. Clarification of pit exit rules. 2023 Monaco Grand Prix. During the race, Verstappen appeared to cross the exit line when rejoining the track, leading to controversy over whether he violated the rules. The clarification was the FIA tweaked the pit lane rules clarification that drivers must not cross any part of the car over the pit lane exit when rejoining on the track. The updated rule specifies that touching or crossing the line with any part of the car constitutes a violation. And it says, interesting to note that aside from the pit lane rule in 2023, the last rule change or clarification directly attributed to Verstappen's action was 2021. There we go. Interesting. Yes, I thought that made for interesting reading. Many Verstappen changes. He's an amazing driver. Don't get me wrong. He is a generational talent as well. He does cross the line sometimes. Let's be fair, or at least very near the mark sometimes. And I haven't known in Formula One since I've been watching in the 90s. So many rule changes because one driver, but then that's why people love him so much. That's why he's got such a big fan base. But then, hey, so do all the other drivers. So does Hamilton. So does Norris. But I am kind of glad that the FIA have come out and said we need to look at these rules because what happened in the USA, yeah, we need to be better than that. And that I completely, for that I completely agree. If you like what you see, please give us a subscribe. That would be lovely. Until then, stay safe and we'll speak to you soon.